Greetings, everyone. I am Tom Earl. On this week's episode, I interview founder and CEO Emelda De Coteau and her focus on empowering women in three core areas: faith, activism, and inspiration. Check it out. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the celebration. As you know, this is my year of courage. I know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here today means the absolute world to me and to us because I'm not alone. I have an amazing guest. She goes by the name of Emelda De Coteau. How's it going, Emelda?
Hey, it's great to be here. I love your podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate you stopping by. Let me do a little intro for you and then we'll jump in. Emelda De Coteau is a mother, wife, sister, friend, writer, blogger, communications consultant, and budding photographer. She feels called to cultivate and empower a community which empowers women in three core areas: faith, activism, and inspiration. Emelda is the founder of Pray With Our Feet, formerly known as Live in Color, which has a mission to celebrate the beauty in every moment, from faith to inspiration and motherhood. Emelda is also the founder of Women Creatives Chat, which is focused on inspiration, empowerment, and connecting women authentically. How'd I do? Did that cover it?
Oh, yep, that's it. That's awesome.
There's so much richness there, and I know folks are thinking, how do you do all of that?
I ask myself that all the time. I run on prayer and smoothies.
What kind of smoothies?
Oh, all kinds. Strawberry, blueberry. As long as it's a smoothie, I'm there.
Any fresh ginger?
I don't, a little bit. I'm more like ginger in soups.
Oh, I dig it. Nice.
Yeah.
And let's jump into that then. What is prayer?
So for me, as a writer, one of the things that I really, one of the ways that I approach prayer is through writing. I have a prayer journal that I use. Actually, show it. This is a gift it's called Write God In, Journal Your Way to a Deeper Faith. It's a gift from my parents this past Christmas, actually. So it's a lot for me based on writing out how I'm feeling and connecting it, but also listening to God. Because I think a lot of times we're so used to just kind of like approaching prayer in a way that you put your requests into God, but you're not really asking God for signs and being open to what's happening around you, because we live in a spiritual universe. It's not just the physical that we see. There is so much that's going on that's unseen. So that for me is one of the core tenets of prayer, listening. And I also like to meditate. I'm trying to get better with meditating longer, because right now it's like 5 to 10 minutes. 10 minutes I'm doing really good because my mind is always going,
Yes.
But those two things for me, or I should say those three things. Prayer is about listening. I focus meditation as a part of it. And then I also like to write my prayers out because it helps me. Because sometimes I get distracted easily. And so the act of writing out centers me, focuses me a lot. I love that part of prayer.
How does one start to listen? I think we've all struggled with the meditation. We write. How do you listen? How do you do that part of praying?
Well, I like to be out in nature, and thankfully I live across the street from a park. So I'll walk across the street and enjoy the nature. And sometimes I'll just sit by a tree and just, I will put my phone in my purse because I'm bad about that. I'm trying to get better with the phone thing. So yeah, I'll put the phone up and I just sit and I listen to the sounds of the birds, and I just really soak it in, and I just ask God to reveal things to me. And sometimes I might not get the answer that day, but I a lot of times will ask for a specific sign. Like one of my signs is deer. Because I've been dealing with, my family and I have been dealing with some health challenges with our little girl. And so I asked for deer as a sign that everything is moving forward and it's flowing. And I see deer all the time.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a wonderful thing.
Yes. I love that.
So what led to the founding of Pray With Our Feet?
Well, I left my regular 9 to 5 job about 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was blogging while I was there. And then the name of the blog at that time was Live in Color, focused on, still focused on celebrating everyday moments, but I would focus on events and just kind of fun things going on. But as our country has continued to, I don't want to say decline, but things are exploding.
Mm-hmm.
In the streets, whether you're talking about gun control issues, Black Lives Matter and the police, all of that. I feel that a lot of times in communities of faith, the focus is on prayer, just pray. But I don't hear enough talk about action. And so I have been involved with Black Women Rising, which started a few years ago, and that's going through a transitional phase. But because of my own interest and focus in activism, I wanted to create a space where people would be able to connect not only their activism and their interest in making the world a better place, but also could connect their faith. And so that was the whole reason why I wanted to restart or rebrand Live in Color blog and have it focused as much as possible on faith and activism and the intersection of those two things. Because I don't think that when we talk about activism, sometimes faith is left out, but there are a number of great activists and humanitarians that faith was a central part of their experience. I mean, King, Gandhi, so many. So that was why I thought I have got to start Pray With Our Feet, because it's essential. We cannot move forward if we're not willing to take the steps to create change. If you see, you open your eyes and you know what's going on around gun control and all these other issues, and you just say, okay, I'm going to pray about it. That's sad. That's not doing enough. You have to physically be out, whether you're in the street, whether you're writing something or blogging, whether you're on social media, but you have to do something.
Is that the feet part?
Yep.
I dig it.
Yes. Forward movement is very important.
It also makes me have a feeling of I have everything I need. Like when you pray on your feet, you're on the go. You don't need something in your pocket. You don't need a device. You just have everything already with you.
That's true. And I think so often we feel like, we have to do so much outside of ourselves in order to bring about change. But, it starts within us and then it radiates out.
When did you start to walk this journey of, going inside and creating change within yourself?
Well, I would say, I've always had an interest in activism and making the world a better place. Even as a kid, I stood up for other kids that were the underdogs. And I would defend my brother sometimes if people would pick on him. He's an artist, visual artist. So I just think it was always something that was a part of me, was a part of my personality. And then my father, he's an immigrant. He came here from Honduras, and he would tell us stories about the hardships and things like that he endured. And I just have this connection, to wanting to see a just world, a world of beauty, a world of light, and knowing that it is possible. No matter how dark and bleak it looks, there are people who are out there every day on the ground making it happen. And so, I just think it was something it's in me. It's always been there.
There's a famous quote that says, where your passions and the world's needs intersect, there's your opportunity to serve.
I love that.
So I'm hearing that you've always kind of known the needs, the social activism part. Where did you start to discover your passion for writing and communication and using that as a way, and organizing people and using that as a way to serve those needs? When did that start to happen?
I would say with the writing was also something that was developed in childhood. Because I used to write songs when I was little.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my brother and my mom had this thing where she had, like, in the summertime, TV tickets. So You get a certain amount of time to watch TV, and she's a teacher. After that time is over with, after you've used your TV tickets, time is up. So we had to do all this imaginative play, and I used to write like little radio stories and plays and stuff like that. So I would say that that's where the writing started. The organizing and the focus on trying to connect people for change, I would say the organizing started college. But I didn't have a particular group. I would like go to actions, direct actions and things like that. But it really, where I am now in terms of the way that I look at organizing and the way that I look at affirming spaces for women, all of that became really clear to me after I left my 9-to-5 job 4 years ago. And that's when I started to meet a lot of the women who were, who would eventually form the collective of Black Women Rising, and also other people who were taking direct action in Baltimore, because, you know, we dealt here a few years ago with Freddie Gray. And so I would say that that was, for me, when everything sort of really coalesced, the writing, the creating, affirming spaces. And during those, a lot of the work that we were doing with Black Women Rising and some of the other direct actions that I went to was focused around healing. Because if you're not whole, and not that we'll ever, well, if you're not making the steps and you're not on the journey to become whole, then you can't radiate out and be able to create pockets of change in your community. So, yeah, I would say that that's where it started in childhood and then in college. And then when I left this job, because I had time to think about, okay, like what am I doing? You know, like what is my purpose? And for me, that's really important. Understanding what my purpose is, what my calling is, because I think that what we do, there's a quote from, I'm trying to think of the name of the artist. He's a spoken word artist, and he talks about not being a human doing, but being a human being. Prince E.A. And you know, like how we get so caught up in doing and busy work, but we're not taking a step back to ask ourselves, okay, like what is my purpose? What am I giving to the world? You know, it's which I think is essential. And I think that's one of the challenges right now is so many people are not plugged into what their ultimate purpose is. You know, it's really easy to get caught up in the rat race and going 9 to 5 without thinking, okay, like what am I here to do and who am I here to serve? That's really important to me.
You mentioned briefly, maybe you could expand upon it a little bit. Talk to me about the importance of creating healing and affirming spaces for women of color.
So there's a quote from Audre Lorde about how Black women have grown up in a symphony of anger. And I think that that is so true. It's such an accurate statement because we are dealing with issues of self-esteem and feeling invisible in the larger culture. And sometimes even within our own culture, we're not always regarded as I believe we should be for our beauty, our strength. And so like the way that that shows up is that when you go into spaces as a Black woman or as a woman of color, among other women of color, you're carrying all of these insecurities and this baggage and the programming of what you've been told a Black woman or woman of color should be. You feel like you have to silence yourself and your anger. Like it's natural to feel anger, but we all know the stereotype about the angry Black woman. And so for me, it's been really important to create spaces where women can come together. I just did a journaling workshop for Women Creatives Chat in March, the end of March. And it was around intentional living and self-care. And the way that I set the event up, we were all in a circle. And I started off by giving us some journaling prompts because I really wanted people to be able to quiet their minds and still their minds and focus and know that their mode of expression, them writing out how they were feeling is so important. And I think that that's why these spaces where Black women can come together and heal, where we feel like we don't have to, or women of color, we don't have to be superwoman and handle everything. Like we can cry, we can let our hair down. are so important. I mean, it's just fundamental because you're going out into a world that's constantly assaulting you, telling you you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough. You need to tame down. You need to swallow your voice to a certain extent in order to be not even seen, because like you're seen as a stereotype. So that for me is one of the reasons, and that's the inspiration behind creating these healing spaces, because I got a lot of stuff I'm trying to heal from. And I feel like if you can get into community with other women, you know, that is really powerful because we can help each other. We can see each other in a new way.
That's powerful. And I appreciate you inviting us into that kind of vulnerable space that you've created and share us that insight. So I appreciate that. And it kind of jumps off into the other organization that you founded, Women Creatives Chat. Can you tell us a little bit about, you know, the mission, the inspiration, the origin story?
Sure. So Women Creatives Chat started as a Twitter chat. And I started it with another blogging friend, Monica, who has, she's since left to focus on her graduate studies. But we started it together on Twitter. And then we were like, you know, we're really more active on Instagram. So we started doing Instagram chat. And then one of the women who had been coming to the chat pretty regularly said, why don't you all have like a Facebook group? And I was like, I don't really like Facebook that. So let's do an Instagram page. And I was just so passionate about it. And it was just growing. I mean, right now we're over 2,000 followers, which I'm really happy about. And I wanted a space where women would be able to come together, and creative women of all ethnicities, and be able to connect authentically. Right? Because I would go to networking events. This was before in my former 9-to-5 life. And I would rarely meet other creative women. It was more focused on like businessy kind of stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I wanted a space where women who are creative or creative entrepreneurs would be able to come together and to connect. So these chats were kind of about specific things that are very important to creative women, like how do you juggle your creative pursuits with a 9-to-5 job? How do you care for yourself while you're trying to work 9 to 5 or run your creative business? And so that's sort of where the whole, that's sort of how it started. And this was like a year ago. So November, this past November was the 1-year anniversary. And that's when
congrats.
So the chats that I do are normally bi-monthly. And I usually will feature a woman expert. So it could be a woman expert in the area of social media or self-care, so that people can get tangible tips. So that we're not just coming together to chat and you don't have like specific concrete actions that you can take after the chats. So those are every other month on the Instagram page. And I do a Facebook Live show once a month. And then starting last November, that was the beginning of the live events. So I had the journaling workshop in March, and then I also had an event called Cocktails and Creatives, Sip and Shop, highlighting women, creatives, and makers, and connecting them with the people who want to buy their art. So yeah, that was the whole, you know, sort of story, and the mission is all about empowerment, because I feel like as a community, we can move forward as a community of women so much if we feel empowered to share our stories, empowered to share our truths, empowered to share our unique creative expression. And then inspiration. I mean, there's so many times where as a creative on this journey, you know, you might feel discouraged. You may feel like, you know, I'm putting all this stuff out into the atmosphere, into the universe, and nothing is coming back to me. So the page is also a space where you can read. I usually share inspiring quotes, either that I've written myself or other people have written. So that's the second piece of the mission. And then the third piece is to connect creative women authentically. And what I mean by that is, instead of just, okay, I see you on like Instagram, or I see you on Facebook, and hey, I do this and you do that. No, like, how can we really connect on a much deeper level? And that's one of the reasons why I do the live events. And one of the reasons why self-care, intentional living, journaling, meditation, which I have a segment of the journaling workshops where we focus on meditation. But that is those forms of expression and that space to express yourself are so vital and key. Because I want women to leave my event having genuinely connected with another woman, and maybe even they become friends, or maybe, they collaborate on a project together. But I want them to take something away tangibly from the community, whether that's through the online chat or it's through the live event.
That's so powerful. I feel some people right now are floating with that fuel of inspiration that you're pumping out. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. Definitely. It's at Women Creatives Chat on Instagram, and the same thing on Facebook. One of these days I'll get on Twitter.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, and for everybody listening, we'll have all of that in the show notes, tomearl.com/Emelda. We'll plug that again at the end. Can we ask some questions with putting on your founder and CEO hat? Can we ask you some of those kind of questions?
Sure.
I mean, the names you come up with for even marketing things, like what was it, the champagne and sip?
Oh, cocktails and creative.
Yeah, like
shop event. Yeah.
So that your mission statements, you're writing for your bio and managing it all. How do you cultivate yourself in terms of personal development, business development as a business operator? How do you walk that journey?
So how do I walk that? Well, one thing that's really helpful for me, because I have a family too in the midst of doing all these different jobs, is I use a scheduling app called Cozy, because my husband is also an entrepreneur and he's super busy. Mm-hmm. So we have a shared family calendar. So I know exactly, I know where he is when he uses it. And he knows where I am. So that really helps a lot. But I would say one of the other things that is very important for me is I start my mornings in my office and mapping out what my day is going to be. And I also using, for me, a monthly calendar that hangs over my desk, and where I can look and see specific goals and things that I want to accomplish and do is extremely helpful for me. Because I think that a lot of times we don't always have a chance to step back and look at the big picture. We get kind of bogged down in the weeds and the details, and then we're not achieving what we want to achieve. So one of the things that I did this year, I work with an accountability group. The Cocktails and Creatives event, that was something that I did with my partner for some events, my girlfriend Joy. And she had started this accountability group, and she said, okay, you guys are going to have goals for each quarter. So quarter one, this goal, quarter two. And so that's been helping me a lot too, because instead of me okay, I got to answer emails, I got to put social media posts up, I'm really focusing on, okay, what is it that I want to do with Women Creatives Chat? And these are my ideas for monetizing, certain things more. And these are my ideas for events. And so I'm able to focus in a more clear and cohesive way. And then I can look back. And then I do look back at those goals to say, okay, I did this, I did that. And I use another app that I use is Trello, which is really good if you're collaborating with people on a project and you can do checklists and all that. So I'm real big on organization and mapping things out, and mapping them out visually is very helpful as well, because you can see exactly what you're doing and where you're going. Because if not, like I said, you get bogged down in the details and then you feel like you're not doing enough. And sometimes we don't always realize all that we are doing. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to take those moments. And if you do a big project, take a break a little while afterwards, so you're not drained trying to go into the next project or event or whatever it is specifically that you're doing. Those are really important, those breaks.
So I'm hearing one thing is that it's, instead of getting kind of bogged down in the tasks and the to-dos, that you always are trying to take that bird's eye view so that there's a strategy and a line that connects each to-do to the bigger picture of what do I really want for my business.
That's it. That's exactly it. And it's just essential, because if you want to continue to move forward in your business, I think one of the other questions or things that you need to have in the back of your mind is, how does what I'm doing connect to my mission? I learned that a couple of years ago when I was actually sitting in a meeting with Black Women Rising, and we had someone come in that is used to doing like mediation and helping organizations to form. And she was saying that you all need to ask yourself if what you're doing is connecting to your mission. And if it's not connecting to your mission, and you know that you have a limited amount of time or a limited amount of capacity due to the number of people who are working with you, then don't do it. So that's been like a yardstick for me. Like, is this connecting? And how is it helping me? You know, those things are really important.
So it sounds like to do that, which I think a lot of business operators struggle with, is the power of no.
Yes. And I'm not perfect at this. I'm still struggling. I'm a recovering yes girl and recovering perfectionist. It's difficult because I want that's part of my personality. Like I want to be able to help people and feel like I'm doing the best that I can. But sometimes stuff is just too much.
How do you deal with the gap between your vision, what you're excited to happen next, and that place you're currently standing now as you get there? That gap between, you know what I'm saying? Where the vision you have, I want to be this, and I'm here, and here comes the journey. How do you deal with that gap and still find love for the journey instead of it causing you anxiousness?
Well, I try to celebrate like small wins. And for instance, the event, the Cocktails and Creatives event, was covered in the Baltimore Times. So, you know, it might not be like a huge publication, but hey, we were covered in something, you know. I try to focus on that, because if not, like if and this is where social media can sometimes be problematic, and you sometimes need a break from it, because we get into the comparison trap of looking at another organization social media page and feeling like they have so many followers and they have so much engagement and I don't have this, instead of the other way to sort of flip that is, okay, well, I have a community that's growing. I have people who are connecting with me and sending me direct messages and asking me to be on podcasts. Thanks. You know, so I think that that's the other way to look at it, is to look for the small joys. Because if you're trying to look at the whole picture, sometimes that's when it begins to feel overwhelming and anxious. But like if you're a person that does lists, or even if you draw out what you want to do for the week or the day, and you can like check off that, hey, I did this and I did this, like that for me is what helps me from not feeling so anxious, because I know that what I'm doing, like I'm making progress. That's the thing I think is important. If you can trace and see I'm making progress.
That's powerful, and not getting into the trap of comparison.
Yes, because I mean, social media, I had posted this on Women Creators Chat a couple months ago, but like, it's a highlight reel. You're seeing what people want you to see. It's a curated feed. It's a curated, you know, page. You're seeing the best. I mean, how many people get on social media and cry? Really, for the most part, or say that they're having a bad day constantly. They don't, because they don't want to seem like they're negative. So we have to remind ourselves that we're seeing the highlight reel. You're not seeing the full span of this person's experience. So, like everybody's going through something, even Beyonce, like everybody is going through something. So I think that we have to remind ourselves that, you know, each step I take is getting me to my bigger goal. That's the way to look at it.
I mean, well said. As you might have heard in the beginning, I shared how this is my year of courage.
I love that.
And the reason I did that is because what I was seeing, and a concern I had, was that people thought courage was, which this is courage, but people thought this was the only kind of courage, you know, running into a burning building and saving someone, or, you know, like risking your life. And that is courage, but I think courage is also every day. And so I'm curious to know, what is courage to you?
That's a good question. I think courage means so many things, but for me right now, in the season of life that I'm in, with some of the different challenges that I face, I would say courage is the willingness to hope. Because despite what I may physically see manifesting in my life, or the challenges that I am facing on a daily basis, I'm still going to believe in hope.
Mm.
There's a Bible verse, and I don't remember what the exact book of the Bible is, but where it talks about pitching your tent in the land of hope.
Mm.
And I think it's easy to give up, and it's easy to say that something is impossible and you're not able to do it. But courage is saying that I will hope, I will move forward, I will keep going, despite what I'm facing, despite what I see, despite what people are saying is like you can't do, you can't leave a 9-to-5 job because you have a kid and you have to be in a more stable position. No, hope, see the impossible as possible.
Mm.
Yeah, to me, it's really connected to hope, and that's something that we do every day. I mean, from if you're standing on the bus, you're hoping that the bus is going to come. You get in your car, you're hoping that you're going to be able to get to where you're going. Like these are daily actions, and the more you hope, the more your courage increases, your capacity to be able to move forward in the world. So that is just the word that sticks out in my mind when you share about courage. Hope. And as a mom that has a child that has been dealing with some medical challenges, it's almost like an act of rebellion for me. Like, nope, no matter what you say, she's going to continue to progress. I'm going to hope and I'm going to work and it's going to happen. So yeah, I'd say hope.
I resonate with that on a spiritual level. I appreciate that. So if folks want to become a part of the amazing communities that you're building and nurturing and inspiring, what is all the different social that they can do that through? So
Pray With Our Feet is at Pray With Our Feet on Instagram and Facebook, and also on Twitter. And then Women Creatives Chat is at Women Creatives Chat, all one word, on both Facebook and Instagram. And someday Twitter, when I can get an assistant.
For folks listening, if you're on the go, which most of you are, don't worry, TomRell.com/Emelda. That's EMELDA, TomRell.com/Emelda. Every single link mentioned will be there. Please reach out to Emelda. I know that I am already inspired, and the quotes that Emelda shares every day and the videos and the content is super awesome. So bring that onto your timeline so it's not just things that bring you down or gossip or anything like that. Bring some intentional inspiration into your life. So Emelda, I'd like to give you the last word before we go into our conclusion. What would you like to invite folks to do, to reflect upon, to pray about, to think about? What's your invitation?
I would like to invite you to believe in possibility, to embrace the idea that each one of us comes into the universe, into the world with a specific mission. And that mission and that purpose is God-given. And that in order to find that purpose, you have to become still, and you have to be open and willing to listen. And that when you do that, that purpose is going to be revealed to you. And that it's not your job to figure out exactly how you're going to make it all happen. It's your job to listen. And it's your job to then serve, to see how specifically you can help another human being. And that could be something that's a small action, every day. It could be something that maybe you're not called to build a community. Maybe you're called to help the person who's living next door to you for a certain season or time, or someone that you pass on the street. But whatever it is, do it with heart, do it with full compassion, do it with clarity, do it with grace, and let your every word and your every deed be centered and focused on prayer, faith, and intentional living, and the kind of I would hope that you would cultivate a life that is full of joy and celebrating all of the small joys that we often overlook. I wrote something, I think it was last year or year before last, on Instagram about how what we sometimes view as mundane is someone else's miracle. Open to that and be open to celebrating that other person's miracle alongside with them in this beautiful thing called community.
Woo! That was fire. I want to put that to a beat and then run to it. This whole interview was that. And so I really appreciate you showing up, bringing your truth, and speaking to us. Really means a lot to me. I also want to thank God for the random way we connected on Instagram, and that you took this risk of doing this interview with this random person. So appreciate that. And I know my audience is also really feeling appreciation. And so I want to encourage them once again to, whether it's through email, Twitter, any way you can, reach out to Emelda and tell her how much you appreciated her. Share that love back. So thank you once again, Emelda.
Thank you. Oh, I forgot to mention, if anybody wants to email me directly, although this is on my bio, but it's womencreativeschat@gmail.com. Throw me a shout.
Please do. Wonderful. Well, thank you once again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Gratitude. You're doing awesome work.
Thank you. And to everybody listening, we appreciate the greatest gift you can share, which is your time. And as always, we're wishing you peace and blessings. One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.